All right. Order. The question is that the motion be agreed to. I call the member for Gippsland.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And to begin with, I'd like to commend the member for Franklin for moving the motion before the House, and also associate myself with the comments from the previous speakers. The motion refers in part to Telstra's recent announcement that it will introduce a new bill payment fee of $2.20 for customers who choose to pay their bills by mail or in cash in person. And I refer to the Telstra media release of July 20th announcing this decision, that commencing on September 14th, 2009, Telstra will charge a $2.20 administration fee for each bill payment sent by mail or made in person at a Telstra shop or Australia Post, unless an exemption applies. It is obviously an effort by Telstra to coerce customers into using this bill-paying options which actually suit Telstra, and that is direct debit or internet-based options or phone options using credit cards. The existing credit card processing fee will also increase to 1% of the payment amount for many cards. These other payment options, Telstra has informed my office, and I assume that many other members have been contacted by Telstra in recent times. These other payment options, Telstra tells me, are free to use, but the cynic in me is tending to ask, for how long will they be free to use? Will Telstra guarantee that such options will remain free to use in the future? I seem to recall the Australian banking system encouraging more and more customers to use automatic teller machines, which were free to use when they were first introduced. Then came limits on the number of transactions and, of course, fee for use. Deputy Speaker, I can understand the business rationale behind Telstra's decision, but I'm inclined to think the company is definitely putting profits ahead of people. I believe the decision is mean-spirited and shows a lack of respect for the millions of Australian customers who support the company and its products. Changing customers' behaviour through such punitive measures, even a relatively modest penalty of $2.20, is something that I'm not personally comfortable with, and my reservations are shared by many others in my electorate. I've received about 20 phone calls and letters of complaint from Gippslanders who aren't happy about the changes, and I've asked the Minister for Communications to investigate the legality of introducing this fee for customers who are already on a contract with Telstra. There's no doubt that electronic transactions are becoming more popular, and it's probably an inevitable transition as younger, more tech-savvy customers move through the system. But I fear that Telstra is trying to force a social change for economic gain, and it's effectively punishing its older customers and those who are less inclined to adopt new technology. Many people are simply not comfortable using new technology to conduct their financial affairs. They either don't trust the systems or they haven't developed the necessary skills. And I take up the point from the member for Franklin that in many of our regional communities, people simply don't have the access to the broadband services required. This decision will tend to impact more heavily on people who can least afford it, and those who are less educated or are likely to have a lower income in the first place and may not even own a computer or have access to credit cards. Telstra says that this is a commercial decision and the increases are consistent with industry practice. And to its credit, Telstra has announced a range of exemptions from the new fees applying to pensioners, healthcare card holders and people with disabilities. But it does seem an odd situation when Australian residents are being penalised for using our legal tender. And I welcome the motion's further references towards calling on the Australian Competition and Consumer Protection Commission to investigate the impact of these, the impact on consumers of these types of changes. Deputy Speaker, I do also take up the member for Braddon's remarks in regard to some broader concerns I have in relation to the more impersonal systems of automation which are replacing the face-to-face contact, which has fallen out of favour as companies chase bigger profits. And I don't think it's drawing too long a bow to reflect on the increasingly impersonal nature of many of our communities, particularly our major cities. If you walk down the street of any Australian city, you'll pass dozens of people plugged into their iPods or mobile phones or other electronic device. They'll be talking to someone else, they'll be texting or listening to music. And it seems to me that the more connected that we have become in terms of communications technology, the less connected we've actually become in terms of our personal interaction in our own communities. Of course, I'm not suggesting for a second that this is Telstra's fault, but the decision to discourage people from actually popping into a Telstra shop or Australia Post to pay their bills is just another small step down that path. It may seem like a relatively minor point, but discouraging another opportunity for people to actually talk with each other and conduct their businesses rather than tap numbers on a keyboard or some other form of automation simply adds, I believe, to the social disconnect in our community. Now, it may suit Telstra to force its customers away from paying their bills in person, but it certainly doesn't suit many Australians who don't trust electronic transactions and like the security of knowing they've actually handed over their money to pay their bills. Deputy Speaker, in the grand scheme of things, a $2.20 penalty may not appear to be a big issue, but it is amongst the people who have contacted my office, and I think in the broader Australian community, this fee impacts more heavily on people who can least afford it and adds to the increasing social disconnection within our communities. I commend this motion to the House and congratulate the member for Franklin for bringing the House attention to it.